In this video, you are going to learn how you can use logical operators and conditional statements to make decisions in Microsoft Excel. So what are conditional statements? What are logical operators first of all? Now, logical operators and by extension conditional statements are those operators or those functions in Microsoft Excel that you can use to make decisions based on certain criteria or conditions. Okay, so at the end of this table you are going to learn how you can make conditions. You can make decision by writing conditions and also combining conditions with logical operators, and then you'll be able to achieve something like this. Okay, this is a student result sheet compiled already, so this is going to be our final result after today's lesson. So let's go straight into it. So I have a bunch of numbers written here, num1, num2 and num3, okay, which could represent scores of students, maybe after a test or an examination. Okay, here are the numbers right here, and then I have the criteria, maybe pass mark or so. So I want to find out the result. Okay, now does this num1 meet our criteria? Okay, so I'm going to come over here and I will write a simple Excel logical statement right here. I'll say equal to num1, click on that, is greater than or equal to our criteria, which is 70. So I'm going to lock this with F4. Okay, so now I explained the difference between relative and absolute cell reference in one of our previous videos. You can check back on why you have to lock a cell. Okay, but to lock a cell, to lock the formula to this cell, after selecting that, you just tap F4 to lock it. Okay, so that's our logical statement. The num1 over here is greater than or equal to the criteria. Okay, so I'm going to enter, and then it's going to return a result in Boolean format, which is true. Okay, I'll come over here and let's find out for num2. I'll say equal to num2 is greater than or equal to the criteria. Once again, I'm going to lock it and then enter, and then that returns false. Of course, it's false because this number is less than our criteria, so it didn't meet the condition. Okay, then the third num here, num3, I'll say equal to num3 is greater than equal to our criteria. I'm going to lock that with F4. Now you guess what our result will be. It's going to be true. Okay, because num3 is actually greater than the criteria. So num1 is greater than the criteria, so it returns true. Num2 is less than the criteria, so it returns false. And num3 is greater than the criteria here, which returns true. So to get that of the second row here, I'm going to highlight this and then drag down to get the rest. Okay, we have true, true and true, which means they all meet our criteria or our condition. They are all greater than the criteria right here. Okay, so now that we have our result, we want to use the AND logical operator. Now, okay, we're going to be looking at three different logical operators. We'll be looking at the AND logical operator, the OR logical operator, and then the IF logical operator or conditional statement. Okay, and then we'll see how to combine if and AND logic, also if and OR logic. You can combine two or more functions to make decisions in Excel actually. So I'm going to come over to so this AND logical operator is used to check if num1, num2 and num3 meet the criteria. Okay, so if certain data within cells meet a particular criteria, which is our criteria, so we want to confirm if num1, num2 and num3 actually meet this criteria here. So we use the AND. So I'll come over here and I'll say equal to AND. Okay, and open the parentheses, and then I'm going to select these three cells, num1, num2 and num3, or I can just hard code it in the bracket here. So I'm going to close the bracket. So equal to AND, you select num1, num2 and num3 and enter them into the bracket and then enter. Okay, this is going to show us that yes, this is false, which means num1, num2 and num3 didn't meet the criteria, all of them. Okay, but if I drag down Okay, this is going to show us true. This is because both num1, num2, and num3, they all meet the criteria. But here we have num1 actually met the criteria, num2 doesn't meet the criteria, num3 met the criteria, so it returns false. For it to return true, all three of them would have to meet our criteria. Okay, that's why we have false here. And then we have true over here. All right. So on the other hand, the or logical operator can be used to check if at least one of the numbers here meet our criteria. Now, unlike the and logical operator, the three of them this time doesn't have to meet our criteria. If one meets our criteria, then it's going to return true over here. So I'm going to say equal to or open bracket and then select them once again right there from num1 to num3 and then close the bracket. So once I enter this, it's going to return true because out of the three numbers, two of them actually met our criteria, which is 70. So even though one of them doesn't meet the criteria, it still returns true here. So I'm going to drag down, which also returns true here because in this case all three of them meet our criteria. So we have true and true. Okay, so once again, the AND logical operator can be used to check if all the numbers meet our criteria. Okay, but the OR logical operator can be used to check or confirm if at least one meets our criteria. Okay, so let's come over to if conditional statement. Now, the if conditional statement is used, like I explained initially or earlier, is used to make decision based on setting, that is one or more criteria. We have the single if conditional statement and the nested if conditional statement. We also have the ifs or if else conditional statement. Okay, now let's come over to, I'm going to show you the syntax, how you can write conditional statement in Microsoft Excel. So this is how you structure your conditional statement. I'm going to say equal to if open bracket. So first thing you are going to write here is your logical test, which is your condition. So I'm going to write condition, comma, all right, then the value if true, that's what should be your result if the condition is met or satisfied or true. So I'll say value if true. Okay, so I'll add a comma there, and then next is value if false. Close that and close the bracket. All right, so that is how you write your conditional statement in Microsoft Excel. Equal to if, inside the parentheses you add your condition first of all, and then after the condition you add a comma, and then now if you are going to add a string or a text in as your output, is always advisable to put it in string format. Okay, that's why I wrote this inside opening and closing quote marks or quotation marks. All right, same as value if false. So we're going to practicalize it shortly, but let's see. Assuming that I want to write a random conditional statement here. Okay, I want to compare, let's say num3 with this criteria here using conditional statement to see if this person passed based on the criteria. So I'll come over here and I'll say equal to if open bracket. Now let's follow this syntax right here. So after the if, we're going to write our logical test, which is the condition. So the condition is that if this num3 is greater than or equal to the criteria, I'm going to lock that with F4 again. All right, if num3 is greater than or equal to the criteria, I'll add a comma and open my double quote marks or double quotation, and then what should be the result if this condition is true or if this condition is satisfied, that is if num3 is actually greater than 70. So inside here I'm going to say pass, close it. Now what if this condition is not true or is not satisfied? If this number is not actually greater than or equal to the criteria 70, I'm going to open the quotation again and then I'll say fail and then close it. Finally, I'm going to close the bracket. Remember, I opened a bracket here. I'm going to close it at the end. So I've written my conditional statement following this syntax right here. First of all, if, okay, right here, condition, the condition is right here, d4 is greater than or equal to the criteria, which is 70. Then value if true is pass, and then value if false is fail. So I'm going to enter, and then it's going to return pass, which means this num3 actually meets our condition, okay, which is 70. What will happen if I reduce this to 40? This is going to return change to fail, okay, because it no longer meets our criteria. Okay, so that is how you write an if or a single if conditional statement in Excel. Okay, now I'm going to come over here. Now let's see how we can combine both conditional statement and other logical operators like the if and the and logic. Okay, so I'm going to say right here, I will say equal to if, open that, and then I will say and, open another bracket. All right, so I want to combine the if logical operator and the and logical operator to write a condition. So I'll say if and, that is if these three, 1 2 3, are, that is if the three of them meets our condition or our criteria. That's what this and mean right here. That is if the three of them meets our criteria. I'm going to close the bracket. Okay, so then what should happen if this condition is true? Assuming if we are following our conditional statement syntax right now, this is going to represent our condition right here. This is our condition. All right, so now what should happen if this condition is true? That is if all of them met, that's num1, num2, num3 meets our criteria. I'm going to come over here and I'll say, I'll open that double quotation, and I'll say yes, or let's say pass, close that, comma. Now what if this condition is not satisfied or is not true? If the three of them doesn't meet, all three of them doesn't meet our criteria, I'm going to come over here and then open another double quote marks or double quotation, and I'll say fail, and then close that, and finally close the bracket. Again, since we open an if statement here, we have to close it here. This second bracket for and is already closed here. Okay, so I'm going to enter now, and then is going to return fail. The reason being that the condition is not met. Okay, the condition says if the three of them, okay, actually meets our criteria. So as you can see, num2 doesn't meet the criteria, so it returns fail. Okay, so let me write another condition for the second row. I'll say equal to if, open bracket, and open another bracket. Okay, I'm going to select the three of them once again and close the bracket. So I open a bracket here, close it here, and then I'll say comma, open quotation, and then again same thing, pass, close quotation, comma, open another one, and then say fail, close that, and close the bracket. All right, so once I hit enter, this is going to return pass. Okay, which means that the three of them actually returns true, which means the three of them meets our condition. Okay, so again, if can be combined with the and logical operator if you want to find out if 2, 3 or more values meet a certain criteria. Okay, now let's come over to the or logical operator. Now, just like I explained over here, the or logical operator can be used to write a condition. If combined with the if conditional statement, it can be used to write a condition that checks, all right, if at least one of the numbers here meets our criteria. If it does, then what should be the output? If it doesn't, what should be the output? So I'm going to come over here and I'll say equal to if, open bracket, or open another bracket. So logical 1 is going to be the three of them, num1, num2, num3, then close the bracket, comma. That is our condition. This is our condition. Again, if we are following this syntax, we just entered our condition. So what should be the value if this condition is true? I'm going to open string, and I'll say pass, close that, and then comma, open string again, and I'll say fail. All right, close string, and then close bracket. So once I enter, this is going to return pass. This is because at least one of these norms or numbers meets our criteria. Okay, we have two of them actually. Num 1 and num 3 meets our criteria. Despite the fact that num 2 doesn't meet our criteria, it still returns pass. Okay, so of course, if you check it, if you drag down or you calculate this or you write the condition for this, it's going to return true, because this time all three of them meets our criteria. So to fasten it, I'm going to just drag down right here. Okay, so it returns pass, which means all three of them meets our criteria. All right, so that is how you write you use and logic or logic and then the if conditional logic to write logical expressions and conditional statements. Okay, so having seen this, let's see how to use this on a real practice exercise or on a real spreadsheet. So I already have a complete table right here, but let's see how to arrive at this. So I also have a practice sheet right here. You can download this spreadsheet and then follow along with this exercise, yeah, if you want to, from the description of this video. So I'm going to come over here. Now, first of all, I'm going to calculate the average. We have student results sheet here. Let's say a bunch of students took an examination. These are the details of the students, their student ID, name, age, gender, and so on. These are the tests, okay? Test 1, test 2, test 3, right here. And then we have their average scores already calculated, their attendance score, and then their assignment status, okay? Now, coming over to average, these are the conditions we want to use to check if the students actually passed of this class or this examination. Okay, so I'm going to come over to average and I'm going to write a conditional statement for average. Okay, and I'm going to say equal to if open that. All right, if the average score right here, I'm going to select that, or I'll just hard code it in the formula. The average score is located in cell H3, okay, H3. So I'm going to come over here and type H3, but I could just click on it. It's going to enter it for me here. All right, so if H3 is greater than or equal to, now I also have the criteria written here or entered here. Okay, so the minimum average score should be 60%. All right, so it means that any student who scores less than 60%, it means they didn't or they don't meet our criteria. So this time for the first student, if this student's average score is greater than or equal to our criteria, which is 60, I'm going to select that. Again, I'm going to lock it with F4 to lock the formula to this cell. All right, so I'll add comma and then I'll open my string. Okay, so what should be the result if this condition is true? I just wrote my condition, so what should be the output if the condition is true? I'm going to say yes, close that string, comma, open string again. What if this condition is not true? If the average score is not doesn't meet our criteria of 60 marks, I'm going to say no. All right, then close that and then close the bracket, just following our if conditional statement we wrote earlier. If condition, all right, so if this condition is true, this should be the output. If this condition is not true, it's not satisfied, this should be the output. So I'm going to enter to give us the result, the output. So it's showing no here because the student's average score is actually less than the pass criteria. Okay, so I'm going to just flash fill to get the rest of the result. You can see them right there. Okay, this person got 72% average, and then you can see it's showing yes. All right, so I'm going to do the same thing for the attendance. So I'm going to say equal to if open bracket, if the attendance percentage. This time I'm going to, okay, let me just hard code that. If open bracket, that is I3 now, so I'm going to say I3 is greater than or equal to, all right, is greater than or equal to attendance score, which is 70. I'm going to select that and then tap F4 to lock it, lock the formula to this cell. All right, comma, then what should be the output if this condition is true? That is, if the attendance score is actually greater than or equal to 70%. So I'm going to open string once again and I'll say yes, close that, comma, open string once again, and I'll say no. All right, close that and close the bracket. That's our condition. So I'll enter, and then we have yes. This person's average score is 73%, which is above the expected attendance rather. Okay, so I'm going to double click to flash fill and then get the rest of the result. All right, now finally for assignment, we're about to find out if the student submitted all his or her assignment or not. All right, so this is going to be a little different. So I'm going to come over here and I'll say equal to if, open bracket, if the student's attendance, which is J3, so I'm going to hard code it in the formula, J3 is greater than or no, actually if J3 is equal to, all right, is equal to this. All right, we're not using greater than or equal to this time since this is a string value. So if J3 is equal to yes, comma, what should be the result if this condition is true? It's a short condition this time. So if this condition is true, I'm going to open the string and again, and I'll say yes, close it, comma. So what if this condition is not true? I'll open the string again and I'll say no. All right, then close string and close bracket and enter. This is going to return. All right, so this student didn't actually submitted all his or her assignments, so it's returning no. All right, so I'm going to double click again to return. Actually we made a mistake here, so I'm going to go back to correct that. So in here, instead of selecting this, I'm going to cancel that and I'll put this inside string. All right, I'll say yes instead, close string. Okay, so if this doesn't work, we'll just hard code it inside the formula, which means that if the student submitted his or her assignment, which is this yes here, then the result should be yes. But if the student doesn't submit his or her assignment, then the result should be no. Enter. All right, again flash fill. Right, it's going to give us the correct result this time. So this student actually submitted his or her assignment and then it returns yes, which means that student actually met our condition or criteria right here. All right, now finally, how do we calculate the result? Now we can calculate the result in two ways. It depends on what criteria you are trying to meet. Okay, the criteria may be that at least one of these conditions has to be true, okay, or has to be yes. Okay, if the students meet at least one of these criteria, average, attendance and assignment, then the student passes the exam. Okay, but we're going to use the other method. Okay, we're going to say the students must meet all three conditions, okay, in order for them to pass this examination. Okay, in that case, we are going to combine the if conditional statement together with the and logical operator. All right, the if conditional statement with the and logical operator. So I'm going to come over here and I'll say equal to if, open bracket, and open another bracket. So if K3, which is the average score for the student, all right, so if K3 is equal to yes, okay, I think I'm going to put that in string, is equal to yes, close that, sorry, comma. All right, so that's the first. If K3 is yes, comma, if L3, again I'll do this, L is equal to, again put that in string, yes, close that string, comma, and then M3, I'll do the same thing, M3 is equal to yes, close that. All right, so if K3 is equal to yes, L3 is equal to yes, M3 is equal to yes, that is if all three conditions are yes or true, or if the student meets all three conditions. All right, so I'm going to close the bracket to finish my condition. So this is the and logic part, all right, which represents our condition. The condition is that the student must meet all three criteria. All right, so I'm going to come over here and I'll add comma and open string So what should happen if this condition is true? That is, if the student meets all the three criteria. So I'm going to say, yeah, pass, close that, comma, open another, and then I'll say fail, close that, and then finally close the bracket. All right. So if this is our condition, once again, if the students if the criteria, if the student meets all three conditions or criteria, then he or she pass the test or the examination. But if the student doesn't meet all three criteria, then the student fail. So I'm going to enter, and then you can see that this person actually failed because the person didn't meet the criteria for average and for assignment, but he or she met the criteria for attendance. So this person failed the exam. So I'm going to flash fail and then get the rest of the result. So we have a pass here, which means this person passed all the three conditions. This person failed one of the conditions, so he or she failed the exam. This person passed all three conditions, so he or she passed the exam. All right. So this is how you write conditional statement, logical operators, and you combine both the if conditional statement with the logical operator in Microsoft Excel. Once again, you can just get this practice exercise, download this spreadsheet, open this practice exercise, and then use it to practice this tutorial.